Hi, I'm Jude from HeadFi.org. Today we're going to talk about the 5th annual CanJam London. CanJam London 2019 is happening again at the Park Plaza Westminster Bridge Hotel, a lovely location in central London, on July 27th and 28th, 2019. But before we get to CanJam London, I just want to remind you that we have one more CanJam this year after CanJam London, so mark this event down in your calendar and travel schedule. To end the 2019 CanJam season, on November 9th and November 10th, we're going to Shanghai for the 2nd annual CanJam Shanghai, that show being held again at the stunning Shanghai Marriott Hotel City Center, located in the heart of downtown Shanghai. Now, last year's CanJam Shanghai was an amazing show, and it'll be even bigger this year, so please join us in China. But now, let's get back to London, to CanJam London 2019, which wouldn't be possible without this year's CanJam London sponsors: Chord Electronics, Qobuz, who's also CanJam's official streaming partner, Headphonia, Headphone Guru, and HiFi Plus. Now, of course, we've got product launches and a lot of gear to show you, so let's get started. We're excited to announce an exclusive CanJam London 2019 pre-show party along with DCS and Spiritland. This event is happening on Thursday evening, July 25th, starting at 7 p.m. at Spiritland Royal Festival Hall. This pre-show party is open to all CanJam show attendees, volunteer staff, and CanJam exhibitors. I really hope to see you there, and if you want to attend, please RSVP to the email address you see on the screen. In case you're not familiar with Spiritland, it's a series of spaces for music lovers: a restaurant and bar in Royal Festival Hall, a cafe, bar, and radio studio in King's Cross, and a shop in Mayfair. All of it is built around a deep love of music and the culture that surrounds it. These venues were born of a desire to engage with music in the deepest possible way, to hear it as the artist intended, to connect with the emotions within, and with food and drink to match. I've been to Spiritland King's Cross, and the quality of sound coming out of their Living Voice sound system was far beyond what I've heard from any such club or venue before. I have not yet been to Spiritland Royal Festival Hall, where the pre-show party is going to be, so I can't wait to see it and to hear it. Now, Spiritland Royal Festival Hall is a 180-seat restaurant, an early morning to late night celebration of food, drink, and music in Europe's largest center for the arts at the ground floor of the Royal Festival Hall. This place looks fantastic. Again, the exclusive CanJam London 2019 pre-show party, organized along with DCS and Spiritland, takes place Thursday evening, July 25th, starting at 7 p.m. at Spiritland Royal Festival Hall. And again, please RSVP to the email address you see on the screen. Of course, DCS, Data Conversion Systems, will also be a CanJam London exhibitor, and they'll have their new DCS Bartok DAC and headphone amplifier combo at the show. The Bartok features DCS's legendary ring DAC technology and a custom-designed headphone amp built in, designed to work with both high and low impedance headphones, unbalanced and balanced. I'll definitely be plugging into the DCS Bartok at CanJam London. In the world of pro studio audio, is there a more respected name than Rupert Neve? I don't think so. So well regarded is Neve's gear that if a studio has Neve consoles, or any Neve gear for that matter, they'll make absolutely sure you know they do. It'll be on the studio's website, and they'll point out the Neve components when they give you a studio tour. By the way, have you seen Dave Grohl's rockumentary Sound City? Because you should if you haven't. It's awesome. It's a film about the legendary recording studio of the same name. Fantastic documentary. It was also essentially a 2.5-hour homage to the legendary Neve 8028 mixing console that was at the Sound City studio and that Grohl now has in his studio. As Dave Grohl said, Rupert Neve is like the Einstein of recording equipment. As you can see here with my commemorative Neve pin, there are only 100 of these, this promo photo of Rupert, and this Rupert bobblehead, I'm obviously a Rupert Neve fanboy. So I was positively giddy when Rupert Neve Designs launched their first dedicated headphone amp back in 2016, the RNHP. So I'm giddy all over again to tell you that Rupert Neve Designs is launching 2 new headphone driving products at CanJam London. This is the Rupert Neve Designs Fidelis RNHP, and this is the Fidelis RN DAC. By the way, they'll also be showing a new Fidelis Phonoprix, but we'll focus on the headphone driving stuff now for obvious reasons. The Rupert Neve Designs Fidelis RNHP maintains the original RNHP's overall design philosophy and approach, but comes with some component changes and has a little more gain than the original. Now, I'm glad they stuck with the formula that worked so well the first time, because the original RNHP's technical and measured performance is so solid, it was actually our headphone measurement amplifier for quite some time, until we obtained the Audio Precision APX 1701 measurement amp and a custom THX-built AAA-based measurement amp. Now, I haven't had time to play with the new Fidelis RNHP prior to shooting this video, so I'll be excited to try it out extensively later when it's in full production form. Now this is the upcoming Rupert Neve Designs Fidelis RN DAC, and this I did spend time listening to with a couple different IEMs and a couple different headphones. And okay, I'll say it, I can't wait for the Fidelis RN DAC to be released. First impressions are that it's absolutely superb. According to Josh Thomas at Neve, the Fidelis RN DAC is a completely new design and has involved one of the hardest and longest development cycles that they've faced as a company. It's also Rupert Neve Designs' first digital to analog product. The RN DAC can decode PCM up to 32384 and DSD up to DSD512. Now because this Fidelis RN DAC is a pre-production unit, I won't show you any of my measurements for it yet. That said, it is one of the top measuring DACs I've had on the bench, and yes, I did hook it up and sneak a peek, especially when you consider not just the RN DAC's audio band performance, but also its out-of-band behavior. I'll say and show more about that when it's in final production. I have seen the specs Neve will be publishing, including measurements from one of Neve's audio precision analyzers, and they are, not surprisingly, exemplary. As Neve has said though, great sound starts and ends in analog, and Neve's analog circuit designs are widely known with the studio crowd for both musicality and clarity. The RN DAC is built around Class A transformer balanced topologies similar to those found in Rupert Neve's classic studio designs. We're talking about the kind of circuits that studios buy Neve gear for to provide staggering resolution and to reproduce soundstage with exceptional realism and depth. The RN DAC's headphone amp section is not based on the RNHP, by the way, but is an all-new design and includes a 1/4-inch unbalanced output, a balanced 4-pin XLR output, and a balanced 4.4mm Pentacon output. And the output impedance from the unbalanced headphone output is only 1/100th of an ohm and only 2/100ths of an ohm from the balanced ones. It also offers both low and high gain settings. I think it's quite obvious Rupert Neve Designs has its finger on the pulse of our community. I used the RN DAC with the Custom Art 5A4 and Sony IER Z1R IEMs, and in low gain the RN DAC had no background noise with either of those, driving them beautifully sounding gorgeous. I also used the RN DAC with the Focal Stellia and the Abyss Diana Phi, and again, I think we have a crazy versatile amp in the running to be one of our top references with the RN DAC. Now Josh from Neve told me that hearing the RN DAC for the first time was one of his 3 most profound moments at Neve. The first was standing with Rupert the first time they pulled up a couple of channels on the 5088 mixing console. The second was hearing the Shelford channel, and the third was the RN DAC. I believe him. As you can see, these new Fidelis pieces are also gorgeous to look at, completely new designs. Neve was after a design that is timeless and unique with a touch of Danish modern that would look at home in a living room, a loft, or a world-class studio. As far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished. In person, they are so gorgeous, especially the RN DAC. Now, I think you can see I'm excited about the new Fidelis products from Rupert Neve Designs, and we're honored that Neve is unveiling their Fidelis line for the first time at CanJam London. Make Rupert Neve Designs one of your first stops at the show. FiiO will be showing their new FiiO Q5S at CanJam London. It's their new flagship Bluetooth and DSD-capable DAC and amplifier. The Q5S is everything the Q5 is, but with improvements and the addition of something I was really hoping for, and that's support for the higher-res Bluetooth audio formats. The Q5 supports SBC, AAC, and aptX. The Q5S supports those plus aptX HD, aptX Low Latency, LDAC, and HWA. Yes. Because I travel often, and even when I'm not traveling, I'm moving around a lot, I want as many options as possible for portable hi-fi. So imagine a portable DAC amp combo that I can feed via analog line-in, or digitally from USB, optical coax, lightning, or Bluetooth, including all the current standard and high-res Bluetooth formats. If you have a modern smartphone or laptop, something like the Q5S opens up gobs of options for DACing and amping your favorite headphones and IEMs. The Q5S improves on the Q5 in several different ways in addition to the incorporation of high-res Bluetooth format support. They've gone from the CSR8670 in the Q5 to the CSR8675 Bluetooth chip in the Q5S, and to Bluetooth 5.0 in the Q5S from 4.2. FiiO has gone from dual AK4490EN DACs to dual AK4493EQ DACs in the Q5S, and the Q5S can decode PCM up to 32768 and DSD to DSD512. They've also made other refinements to the Q5S versus its predecessor, including a new amp module called the AM3E that provides 3.5mm single-ended headphone output and 2.5 and 4.4mm Pentacon balanced outputs. It's so nice not to have to worry about which plugs my headphones and IEMs are terminated with. The AM3E's drive is solid too, outputting 220 milliwatts into 32 ohms and up to 560 milliwatts into 32 ohms from its balanced outputs. You should be able to drive most anything, IEMs and full-sized headphones, with finesse and authority. And that amp module is swappable, which I'm going to definitely be revisiting momentarily. So what's my most common use case for the FiiO Q5S? Well, there are a couple actually. On the go with the Huawei P30 Pro smartphone with Qobuz music streaming and that digitally feeding via high-res Bluetooth the FiiO Q5S, the Q5S then driving an IEM like the FiiO FH7. And also at a desk as a USB DAC from any of my computers using Roon for music, and then the Q5S driving a full-size over-ear like the Odyssey LCDI4. Think of the connectivity options the Q5S offers, and I'm sure some of you will be a lot more creative than I've been, but that's how I use it. FiiO also sent us their new FiiO AM3D amp module, and this amp module is ridiculous, and I mean that in all the right ways. The FiiO AM3D is based on the THX AAA 78 amp circuit, which is the top spec of THX's AAA Frontier series. We use a THX AAA 888, the top spec of THX's flagship AAA Vanguard series, as one of our measurement lab amplifiers, as it's the lowest distortion, lowest noise anything I've measured. While the AAA 78 isn't quite at the level of the 888, it's still way up there versus just about anything else. Measuring the FiiO X7 Mark II DAP with the AM3D as its amp module, I recorded one of the highest signal-to-noise and distortion ratio, or SINAD, measurements I've seen from a portable player in the audio band. And easily the highest SINAD measurement I've seen out of band out to 1 MHz. In fact, at around 91 to 93 dB SINAD out to 1 MHz, it's one of the 2 or 3 best measuring DACs of any type we have ever measured here out of band. Even most premium desktop DACs will drop to 75 dB or lower when you open up the measurement bandwidth to 1 million Hz. Incredible. Now, the FiiO package they mailed us that included the Q5S and AM3D arrived just a few days ago, and they also included the new FiiO M5 ultra-portable high-resolution audio player, and I haven't had time to play with the M5 yet. It looks like an amazing little device with Bluetooth receiver and transmitter, dual microphones, symmetrical USB Type-C, a step counter touchscreen, customizable screen orientation, clock function, and more. Anyway, make sure to also check out the new FiiO M5 and the rest of FiiO's brilliantly engineered product lineup at the show. In the last several years, wireless headphones have obviously been happening in a big way. And as it gets better, there's an increasing place for wireless audio even in our world, becoming more and more viable as a way to get true hi-fi class performance in a more convenient, comfortable, wire-free way. And Audeze might very well have the best sounding wireless headphone, regardless of form factor, that I've heard so far. No, I'm not talking about the Audeze Mobius, which is wonderful and which they'll also have at CanJam. I'm talking about this. This is the Odyssey LCDI4, which is Audeze's stupendous flagship planar magnetic open back earphone. And affixed to the LCDI4 here is Audeze's Cypher Bluetooth module for the LCDI4. Now, if you have not heard the Odyssey LCDI4, you absolutely have to do so at the show. The planar magnetic LCDI4 has electrostatic class resolving ability. Shure's full-range electrostatic earphone, the KSE-1500, is the only other IEM I've heard that I'd say rivals or exceeds the LCDI4 in terms of the ability to resolve micro-detail. In fact, to get a fair comparison of the resolving ability of the two, I once took the closed-back KSE-1500 and the very open-back LCDI4 to an anechoic chamber, and yes, in that much fairer comparison environment, to my ears, the LCDI4 offered resolution to rival the mighty KSE-1500. With its huge 30mm planar magnetic drivers, its ingenious waveguide nozzles, and its very open-back nature, the Odyssey LCDI4 has sonic characteristics I find more in line with a full-size over-ear than an in-ear. The Audeze Cypher Bluetooth module for the LCDI4 has a Bluetooth 5 compatible chipset with support for aptX and aptX HD. It offers 24-bit high-resolution audio quality with low latency and seamless compatibility with Bluetooth devices. I've been using it with the Huawei P30 Pro and the iPhone, mostly streaming with Qobuz. And as an added bonus, when a call comes in, the call quality and my outgoing voice quality is excellent. The Cypher has a very nice microphone. Anyway, I can't get over this thing. It's an absolute must here at the show. Of course, Audeze will also have its wonderful planar magnetic technology-packed Mobius, their new high-end gaming headset, the LCD GX, and the rest of the more traditional Audeze hi-fi headphones and earphones at CanJam London. For CanJam London this year, there are a total of 5 seminar sessions over the 2 days, and none of them are repeated. Also, seating is limited, so plan your schedule accordingly so that you don't miss the seminars you want to see. The seminars will happen in the Plaza 12 and 13 suites on the lower lobby level, that's level -1, directly above the main exhibit area. On Saturday, July 27th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., there'll be a fascinating talk titled The Move to Mass Premium, in Numbers. New products from the likes of professional and traditional audio brands to tech titans are all entering the premium headphones market, which almost doubled in size at 90% in 2018 to be a $7 billion category. The future potential for this category remains just as bright, with new competition driving innovation in lossless audio, new form factors, wireless features, external amplifiers, sensors, voice control, and other smart features. Now, in this presentation, FutureSource, a key strategic partner for the most recognized brands within audio, will dissect the premium headphones market in numbers and explore its potential moving forward. This kind of very specific market data is not easy to come by, so this should be very interesting. On Saturday, July 27th from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., Rob Watts from Chord Electronics will be presenting DAC Design Part 1, Interpolation Filters. Part 2 is on Sunday, which I'll get to in a minute. In Part 1, Rob Watts talks about interpolation filters, which are at the heart of all DACs, and why they're crucial subjectively. Rob will also explain what a tap is and discusses the importance of transients from a perception point of view. Saturday's last seminar is from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and is titled Headphones, Targets and Measurements, and it will be presented by legendary headphone designer Axel Grell. During his time with Sennheiser, Axel was one of the key figures behind so many headphones this community reveres, including the Sennheiser HD600 and HD650, the HD800 and HD800S, and many more. In this seminar, Axel looks to answer questions and make proposals for answers regarding perceived sound and measured data. What is the target for the sound of a headphone? What influences the perceived sound? How can sound be measured? What does a universal target curve look like? These and other questions will formulate the basis for conclusions on how data might be put together in the future to get a more clear idea of how a headphone might sound. On Sunday, July 28th, from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Rob Watts presents Part 2 of his DAC Design seminars titled DAC Design Part 2, Conversion. In this talk, Rob continues the discussion and looks at various ways to convert digital data back to analog, with pros and cons on each approach. He also talks about why DACs have such a big impact on performance and what objective criteria are important for high-end audio. And the last CanJam London seminar is on Sunday, July 28th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. and it's titled A New Chapter in Headphone Technology, the First Full-Range AMT Headphone, presented by Dr. Frederick Knopf from HEDD. Transducer technologies in speakers and headphones are either electrodynamic systems, coming in the voice coil, planar, or pure ribbon flavors, or electrostatic devices, virtually all existing in these product categories. In the last decades, the air motion transformer, originally invented by the German physicist Oskar Heil, took a different approach. Dr. Knopf from HEDD presents the technology behind the Headphone 1, the first full-range headphone based on the air motion transformer principle. At CanJam SoCal last month, by the way, the Headphone 1 received some serious praise. Earlier this year, iBasso released their latest flagship portable digital audio player, the iBasso DX220, and it quickly became one of the most desirable, most well-reviewed portable digital audio players with high-end portable audio enthusiasts. The DX220 just arrived here at HeadFi HQ a few days ago, and its appeal is immediately understandable. First of all, I love the DX220's design, a refinement of the aesthetic of the DX150 and the DX200 that came before it. Simplified, elegant, as if hewn from a metal ingot. And while the DX220's competitors' displays still max out at 720p, the DX220's screen is a 5-inch 1080p display with Corning Gorilla Glass. Of course, it's what's inside that matters most, and the iBasso DX220 is absolutely stacked. It has dual ES9028 Pro DAC chips, and the ES9028 Pro is more typically found in desktop DACs, including one of the DACs we consider a reference here, the Benchmark DAC 3. The DX220 will decode PCM up to 32384 and DSD up to DSD512. The other high-quality bits and pieces inside the DX220 are too numerous to list in terms of capacitors, inductors, oscillators, and the like. As with its DAC chips, it's stuff you'd expect to find in premium desktop DACs. Also inside is an 8-core CPU and 4 gigs of RAM, and it pushes the Android-based DX220 to fast operational speeds. It's a very snappy DAP. Now, one of my tests is to use the universal search feature of Tidal, which is slug slow on most DAPs, but it's nice and zippy on the DX220. Now, all of this requires some juice, and the DX220 feeds it all with a large 4400 mAh battery, definitely a higher capacity battery than most. And what's nice is iBasso made sure it'll charge as fast as reasonably possible by providing the DX220 with a charge circuit that supports Quick Charge 3.0, Power Delivery 2.0, and MediaTek Pump Express. You can charge it up to 70% in just 1 hour, and you'll get approximately 8 to 9 hours of playtime from a full charge. On their website, iBasso actually shows screenshots of audio precision measurements of the DX220, so I decided to do a quick check on our audio precision APX 555, and even unweighted, it made a great showing. Perhaps most impressive to me was the DX220's low noise. In low gain, volume maxed from the unbalanced headphone output, I measured only 2.7 microvolts of noise, which is definitely among the lowest I've measured, maybe the lowest. Now, one of my noise hound in-ear monitors is the Empire Ears Phantom, which is super sensitive. It dives into the noise floor of just about anything you plug it into. But from the DX220, it was as quiet as I've heard from any other player. Several IEMs I love are very sensitive, so this is very much appreciated. Now, ultimately, where the rubber hits the road is, of course, sound quality, and the iBasso DX220 sounds fantastic with everything I've driven with it, from the super sensitive Empire Ears Phantom and every other IEM I've plugged into it, to the ZMF Headphones Verite and Focal Stellia over-ears. We've only had the DX220 for a few days, but what a glorious first impression it makes. Bravo, iBasso. iBasso also sent us their new AMP9 module to use with the DX220, and it'll also work with the DX150 and the DX200. The AMP9 is a tube amp module based on the 6th generation of new tube vacuum tubes by Korg and Nortaki. And like the DX220, it's stuffed with high-grade parts to keep it quiet and refined. Now, as a tube amp enthusiast, the AMP9 excites me to no end. It arrived only a few days ago, and I'm experimenting now with which headphones and types of headphones will work best with it. Right now, I'm using it with the Focal Stellia, and the AMP9 imparts a lovely bloom and warmth. It's also very low noise for a tube circuit, so that's groovy too. Anyway, I love good tube sound. Also, make sure to look for the iBasso ITO1S in-ear monitors at their exhibit. Not to be mistaken for the ITO1, the ITO1S sounds to me like a different IEM altogether. Though both are single driver dynamics, some of the key differences include a thinner diaphragm for the ITO1S, that diaphragm made of carbon nanotube with a diamond-like carbon coating. I believe the ITO1S also has a stronger magnet with 1 Tesla of magnetic flux. But the key difference is the sound signature, the ITO1S being closer to what I'd call a reference versus the ITO1's more U-shaped signature. I haven't measured the ITO1S yet, but I expect good things from this one on that front too. Anyway, make sure to give iBasso's IEMs a listen at the show. HiFiMAN is making bold moves into wireless, and they'll be showing at least 2 new wireless products at CanJam London. Of course, HiFiMAN will also have their more traditional HiFiMAN gear at CanJam London, but for this preview, I'm focusing on their wire-free goods. With the true wireless form factor becoming so significant, so important, I'm not surprised to see HiFiMAN develop their own. This is the HiFiMAN TWS600, and it uses HiFiMAN's topology diaphragm technology used in their latest Hi-Fi IEMs. HiFiMAN's topology diaphragm involves a special nanoparticle coating applied to its surface that HiFiMAN says results in a more natural and detailed sound. HiFiMAN CEO Fang Bian's PhD thesis was on nanomaterials, their differing structures, and various properties, so many of HiFiMAN's products benefit from his experience in that field. In terms of sound, the HiFiMAN TWS600 has a lighter sound signature, a leaner tonal balance than most true wireless IEMs I've used, most of which tend to have bass emphasis instead. Now, if you're a bass head, it's probably going to be a bit light, but if you like a flatter bass presence, you'll certainly be happier. In terms of durability, the TWS600 is IPX4 rated for resistance to sweat and dust. Battery life is 5.5 hours per charge, with 33 more hours worth of charge in the charging case's battery. Now, one thing I found very surprising about the TWS600 for a true wireless form factor was the stability of its wireless connection. Crazy stable. HiFiMAN actually has a video showing a few of the HiFiMAN guys testing its connection distance out to 150 meters or 490 feet. I can place my phone on the office front counter and touch the building across the street without any signal drop. It's a very stable connection. To me, though, the more important wireless news from HiFiMAN is their Ananda BT. Take the extremely well-reviewed, very well-loved HiFiMAN Ananda and make it wireless. That's what this is, and that's big news. Why? Go online, find any review of the HiFiMAN Ananda, and then imagine what you're reading about in those reviews, but without a cable. The comfort on the head and around the ears, the neutralish tonal balance with deep bass extension and wonderful bass presence and detail. That detailed, resolving, even-handed nature continues through the mids and treble. The wonderful, open, airy sound staging. It's an amazing headphone for the money in wired form, and now it's wireless for a bit more money. Now, I don't have details on the amplifiers inside here powering the Ananda BT's drivers, but whatever's going on in these ear cups, it's impressive. The Ananda BT able to be driven to volume levels far beyond my ability to tolerate. Most importantly, though, the amplifiers match up well to the Ananda's sonics, feeling very much up to the task. They sound very well driven. Now, Dr. Fangbian also sent a Huawei P30 Pro smartphone along with the Ananda BT, an absolutely amazing phone by the way, so that I could test the various Bluetooth codecs, and I was able to use SBC, AAC, aptX, and aptX HD. I was also able to connect to the Ananda BT with LDAC at 2496, which opens up 990 kilobits throughput, which is what I've been using, and it sounds fantastic. Honestly, when I wear these, I'll still reach for the cables to get them out of the way when I turn my chair, only the cables are not there. By the way, I believe the Ananda BT will also support LHDC HWA, but I haven't used that yet. This is a very important headphone, this Ananda BT. It's easily the best sounding wireless over-ear I've heard, and I know for many of you its fidelity will be more than enough. Really, it probably sounds better than most of the fully wired rigs a lot of us are using at our desks. And it's important because it's both a product and a proof of concept, proof that we are fast approaching a time when wireless will satisfy even die-hard headfires. Important because I think many of you will hear it and feel we've arrived there solidly. If you look at Campfire Audio's family of IEMs, you'll see an amazing menu of options, aesthetics, and sound signatures. If you want a more reference, more neutral signature, perhaps you go with something like the Campfire Audio Andromeda, the all-balanced armature IEM that's earned legendary status with this community. The Solaris would also fit that bill, offering up a different reference flavor with dynamic balanced armature hybrid design. Do you like something with reference tendencies but also big bass? The Atlas and its single full-range 10mm dynamic driver is perhaps the best Campfire menu item for that taste. That's what the IEM roster is like at Campfire, a menu of different ingredients and flavors. Campfire Audio sent us 2 of their latest IEMs, and they're offering one new flavor and a more affordable variation of another. The first is the Campfire Audio IO, a dual-balanced armature IEM that offers a flavor I've not previously heard from Campfire Audio, and I like it. To my ears, the IO has a leaner tonal balance than I'm used to from Campfire, not bass light, but certainly leaner than normal from them. On balance, the Campfire Audio IO also favors a more keen, brisk high end. Again, as the Campfire Audio menu goes, we've got a completely new dish with the IO. Now those crisp highs are at my limit, so I appreciate the ear tip choices it comes with. You can see in this frequency response measurement the difference between the included foam tip and the final Type E silicone tip it also comes with. I prefer that little bit of burnishing of the high end from the foamies. The other new model they sent us is the all-new version of the Campfire Audio Polaris. Okay, I started this menu analogy, so I'm going to see it through with the new Polaris. You know when you're at a restaurant, you see your favorite bone-in ribeye or ribeye cap, but perhaps you're not feeling as self-indulgent or someone else is picking up the tab, so you want a more affordable alternative. Perhaps you choose the short rib instead. The Campfire Audio Atlas is the bass-emphasized reference, the bone-in or the cap. The new Polaris is the short rib at less than half the price and done with a balanced armature dynamic hybrid design. As bass-emphasized IEMs go, the Polaris V2 is lovely. Anyway, at CanJam London, that's the beautiful thing. You can taste everything on the menu. If you want to hear what for my tastes is the overall best-sounding closed-back headphone perhaps ever made, then go to Focal's exhibit at CanJam London and listen to their latest flagship model, their closed-back flagship Focal Stellia. Now to my ears, the Stellia is it's just as close to perfection tonally as I could imagine from a closed back. No, it's not the most open, airy sounding closed back, but for me it easily makes up for that with its near perfect tonal balance. Now this measurement you're looking at shows that the Focal Stellia hits the Harman around ear on ear target more closely than any other over ear I've measured so far. Do I think Focal was shooting for that target? Not necessarily, but however they arrived at it, Focal Stellia target is pretty Harman-like, which suits me down to the ground. As you can see, the Stellia and Focal's other closed back from the flagship line, the Elegia, they clearly look like the siblings they are. Inside there are things in common too, like the acoustic diffusers on the back wall of the enclosures. There are some critically important differences though, the most noticeable difference being the Stellia's use of solid beryllium drivers like the open back Utopias. The Elegia uses aluminum magnesium alloy domes. The Stellia's beryllium domes are far more rigid, have much better self-damping, and much lower moving mass. Anyway, if you haven't heard the Stellia yet, make it a point to do so at CanJam. Focal will also be showing their upcoming Focal Arch DAC and headphone amp combination co-developed with Micromega. The Focal Arch's DAC section is a balanced design and is AKM based. The Arch decodes PCM up to 384 and DSD up to DSD 256. A quick measurement on the Audio Precision APX 555 analyzer showed impressive numbers from the Arch. Owners of Focal headphones will especially find the Focal Arch intriguing as it has amplifier presets optimized for each of Focal's top headphones. The InEar, the Clear, the Utopia, the Elegia, and the Stellia. Now so far I've mostly tried the Elegia and Stellia presets. When used with the Arch's Elegia preset, the Elegia is given more body with a smoother treble, just better overall. The effect with the Stellia and the Arch's Stellia preset is, however, more subtle. I'm guessing it's because the Stellia is their flagship closed back and already closer to an ideal target. I'm looking forward to trying the other Focal headphones and the Arch's presets for them when I get a chance. As you can see, the Arch also has a headphone stand that attaches firmly to the Arch's chassis, but if you don't need the stand, it can be removed quite easily. I hope to say more about the Arch down the road and how its amp presets work, which is actually pretty cool and clever. Anyway, make sure to try the new Focal Arch, the Stellia, and all of Focal's lineup at CanJam. At CanJam New York earlier this year, Abyss Headphones surprised us all with a new model called the Abyss AB1266 FiiTC, a solid evolution of the AB1266 concept. Now, the new AB1266 FiiTC further refines the platform's 66mm planar magnetic driver, which they've always built in-house and from scratch. Now, according to Joe Skubinski, with the TC, Abyss Headphones has reduced diaphragm mass, tweaked self-damping characteristics to improve bass impact and very low-frequency detail retrieval, and they've significantly reduced phase anomalies on the diaphragm surface, optimized resonant losses of the main assembly, focused on mid and high-frequency micro-detail retrieval, and more. Even before these improvements, the AB1266 was already one of my top reference top-tier headphones. For me, the AB1266 sound has always been visceral, physical, images placed as if in the air, yet with solid, meaty sonic image objects. The TC improves the AB1266. It better images, resolves, and explodes dynamically. And even though it's more resolving, it has a more forgiving character than its predecessor, and that's one of my favorite things about the new TC. At the show, make sure to ask for help getting a proper fit, as the AB1266 can be quite finicky in that respect until you're used to using them. You will know from the sound when the fit is right. Anyway, the improvements they've made with the Abyss AB1266 FiiTC makes it one of the biggest can't-miss headphones in London. Of course, Abyss Headphones will also be showing the latest version of their Diana model. This is the Abyss Diana Fi. This is as close as you'll get to an AB1266 that you can fit in your messenger bag or backpack, and it comes far closer to its AB1266 siblings than its form factor and price would suggest it could. If you visit me in my hotel rooms, this is the headphone you'll most often see on my desk. It's truly remarkable. At CanJam London, Jerry Harvey Audio, or JH Audio, will be featuring their signature design custom in-ear monitors. These are versions of their IEMs crafted in exotic materials like copper, abalone, Bacote wood, rose gold, and others. Now look at my gorgeous HeadFi logoed mosaic design signature series Lola. Of course, I'm biased about this logo, but I do love this design. Speaking of the Lola, if I had to pick one JH Audio model to feature, this would be it. The Lola is actually quite unconventional. It's a hybrid that uses dual-opposed dynamic drivers, but not for bass like pretty much every other hybrid. Instead, the Lola uses those dynamic drivers for the mid-range. The result is a unique, lush, liquid mid-range, and it's for this beautiful mid-band character that I strongly suggest you audition Lola. JH Audio is also showing their line of premium leather goods specially designed for IEM enthusiasts through a partnership with local designers and craftsmen. This JH Audio premium leather accessory package consists of a soft leather IEM case with space at the rear for another leather pouch that holds all your IEM tools. And there's an included leather cable wrap, and all that leather is Horween leather. So if you're a leather goods enthusiast, and I definitely am, then I'm sure you appreciate the fact that JH Audio is using leather from one of the finest tanneries in the world. Of course, at the show, JH Audio will also have their full line of IEMs. In London, Mr. Speakers will be featuring their two flagship headphones, their flagship planar magnetic Mr. Speakers Ether 2 and the electrostatic Mr. Speakers Voce. Both of these headphones are superlative. Mr. Speakers designs and builds their headphones with a fanatical attention to detail and engineering. Now, before he retired from Inner Fidelity, one of Tyle Hertzen's last videos was a tour of Mr. Speakers' headquarters. Find that video on Inner Fidelity's channel and watch it. It's a fascinating look into Mr. Speaker's operations, and after you watch it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Mr. Speakers will also be showing their new detachable Ether 2 ear pads that offer a different fit with a softer feel and larger ear holes, as well as two different voicings to choose from to complement the original pads. According to Dan Clark of Mr. Speakers in a post on HeadFi's forums, one is a perforated pad that has the brightest tonal balance with a gentle bump to the bass and highs relative to the mids. Then there's a suede pad that reduces output from 900 Hz to 5 kHz smoothly. This suede pad gives a warmer, fuller tone to the mids and has perhaps the smoothest highs. Make sure to try these new Ether 2 ear pads at CanJam London to listen to all three possible Ether 2 tunings. Now, of course, in addition to the Ether 2 and Voce, Mr. Speakers will have their entire lineup at the show. Noble Audio will be at CanJam London with their new Noble Audio Con. The Con is a 6-driver per side design, and there are 3 different kinds of driver technologies employed in the Con. In each earpiece, there are 4 balanced armature drivers, one 10mm dynamic driver, and one 10mm piezoelectric driver. I don't personally know of any other IEM using a similar piezoelectric driver, and I really want to learn more about it because it seems to work beautifully in helping sculpt the Con into what it is and what it sounds like. The Noble Audio Con sound signature is well balanced through the audio band with a detailed, focused treble presentation. Compared to my Noble Audio K10 Prestige Custom, the Con presents a different character, more honed, more articulate, more resolving, especially up top, and I'm quite certain the Con's piezoelectric driver has much to do with this. Now leave it up to John Moulton, affectionately known as the Wizard in our community. Leave it to the Wizard to conjure up something fresh and exciting, which they've definitely done with the Noble Audio Con. Effect Audio is coming from Singapore to join us at CanJam London. Effect Audio has become perhaps the top cable maker in the most sophisticated markets globally, especially for IEMs, and after having visited their headquarters in Singapore recently, I can understand why. First of all, they're based in Singapore, which is about as passionate an IEM hobbyist community as you'll find anywhere in the world. So Effect Audio doesn't just have their finger on the pulse of things, they're right in the middle of it all. Also, everyone who works at Effect Audio is a hobbyist, so they're just as passionate about it all as the people who buy their cables. In fact, when I asked about the braiding of their cables, Effect Audio's founder, Su-Yang Zhou, actually sat down at one of the benches and proceeded to braid an 8-conductor cable, and I think even a 12-conductor cable right there in front of us. He also explained how they choose some of their materials, discussed their operations with us, and it was actually all very fascinating. At CanJam London, Effect Audio will be showcasing their full lineup of cables. This is their Leonidas 2 cable that's made up of golden ratio, palladium-plated silver, and lit silver hybrid conductors. The Leonidas 2 was the first audio cable to use palladium-plated silver, and it's what I'm currently using with the new Empire Ears Valkyrie. Now this is one of their newest cables called the Cleopatra. The Cleopatra is a golden ratio, individually enameled septuple core bundled lit cable made of ultra purity OCC silver. I'm currently using it with the Jomo Audio Trinity. Anyway, at CanJam London, make sure to try your favorite IEMs and headphones with Effect Audio's upgrade cables, and I don't think you'll ever go back to stock. Visioneers from Germany is one of the companies I consider among the top tier IEM makers. At CanJam London, Visioneers will be showing off their new custom IEM flagship called the Elysium, which they unveiled at CanJam Singapore. The Elysium is Visioneers' first hybrid custom IEM with one balanced armature driver for lows, one dynamic driver for mids, and 2 electrostatic drivers for extended highs. I love that more and more IEMs are incorporating Sonion's electrostatic tweeters. And yes, I said a dynamic driver for the mids, not the bass. Now the first hybrid I heard with dynamic drivers for the midband was JH Audio's Lola, and that's still my favorite of JH Audio's IEMs. Now I missed hearing the Elysium at CanJam Singapore, but Ethan, the lead producer of our CanJam events and who goes by Third Eye on HeadFi's forums, Ethan picked up the Elysium and he loves it. Ethan told me the Elysium is one of the first of the hybrids that he's heard that sounds fully cohesive across the frequency range, describing it as natural and organic with a slightly warmer than neutral signature while retaining detail. Ethan said with the Elysium, mid-range and vocals are especially rich in texture with great timbre. Now I trust Ethan's ears, so yeah, I'm not missing the new Elysium at CanJam London. Visioneers will also have their only universal fit model, the Erlkönig. The Erlkönig has 13 balanced armature drivers per side, and with a rotary switch you can choose 4 different voicings. Now in its default mode, the Erlkönig has richer than neutral mid-range, giving it a rich tonality, and it also images big and beautiful for an IEM. Gorgeous piece, one of my references while it's been here. Alex Rawson is one of the original founders of Audeze. He also grew up around the music recording industry at the very highest levels, his uncle owning the legendary Village Studios in Los Angeles. Alex was also a mastering engineer at Technicolor working on countless feature films. He also has his own record label, Play Me Records. Now when a guy with these chops says he's making a new headphone from the ground up, he has my spellbound attention. Alex's new company is Rawson Audio Design, and their headphone, the Rawson Audio Design Zero, or RAD0, is a full-range planar magnetic over-ear studio reference monitor. The RAD0 uses completely bespoke 66mm full-range planar magnetic drivers with an impedance of 29 ohms. Now in terms of sound, the RAD0's tonal balance is, to my ears, quite neutral but also natural with deep bass extension, and it's ultra-responsive fast bass. The RAD0's midband is linear but still rich in tone, and the RAD0's treble is extended and has great presence but is never shrill unless the recording is. As I said in the CanJam Singapore preview, the RAD0 is one of the best examples of a reference-type studio monitor signature, and that's not surprising at all given Alex Rawson's personal backstory. One of the things you'll definitely notice about the RAD0 is that each one looks unique, which I love about it almost as much as the sound, and they are so beautiful to look at. You can see 3 examples in front of me here, and we're showing you other examples on screen too. Now you can either customize your Rad Zero or choose from their gallery. You can add wood, gems, and inlays into the resin. You can even visit Rawson Audio's lab in person to design and build your own headphone shells. Anyway, at CanJam London you'll be able to hear and see the absolutely superb Rawson Audio design Rad Zero driven by Headamp at their exhibit, or at Rupert Neve Design's exhibit being driven by the new Neve Fidelis gear. At CanJam London, ZMF Headphones will be unveiling their brand new Verite Closed Edition, ZMF Headphones' new closed-back dynamic flagship. The Verite Closed uses the same polyethylene naphthalate vapor-deposited beryllium driver as the original open-back Verite. The Verite Closed Edition also has a new airflow system with baffle, driver gasket, and cup microporting intended to, as Zach Merbach describes, maximize a delicate, clean, and impactful frequency response. ZMF spent the last year optimizing the airflow of this newest closed headphone, and they told me it maintains a hint of the mid-range euphony that has become synonymous with ZMF headphones, has some oomph with clean, slightly elevated bass, but with more of a neutral balance for the rest of the spectrum and more high-end sparkle than other closed-back ZMFs are known for, but without stridency. I have not personally heard the Verite Closed Edition yet, but I do look forward to doing so. While ZMF Headphones will be showing prototypes of the closed Verite in ash wood at the show, the stock wood will be a beautiful monkey pod wood, and the first limited edition will be desert ironwood. Every Verite Closed will come with a set of Universe and Auteur lambskin pads, the ZMF presentation wood case, their lifetime driver warranty, and the option to buy a discounted ZMF upgrade cable like the new ZMF Verite Pure Silver cable. Zach sent me some measurements of the Verite Closed, measurements they made in their lab with their Audio Precision AECM 206 fixture, APX 1701 lab amp, and APX 515 audio analyzer. How do these measurements look? Pretty darn good. I'm showing you their measurements here, comparing the Verite Closed to its open-back Verite sibling, and there are definite familial similarities with the open-back Verite. And because I love their open-back Verite so much, I can't wait to hear the Verite Closed at CanJam London. Of course, at the show, ZMF Headphones will also have the open-back Verite, the Aeolus being the open-back counterpart to ZMF's popular Atticus, and I imagine they'll also have the rest of their lineup too. Empire Ears introduced two new in-ear monitor models at CanJam SoCal last month, both of which use Sonion's new EST electrostatic drivers, but in very different overall configurations. One of the new models is called the Empire Ears Wraith and is Empire Ears' new flagship, with 11 drivers per side, 7 of those being balanced armatures in a 2 bass, 3 mid, 2 high arrangement. The other 4 drivers in the Wraith are Sonion EST electrostatic tweeters, making the Wraith the first IEM I'm aware of to use 4 ESTs per side. Now, the Wraith is a more even-handed sounding IEM that I described in a bit more detail in last month's CanJam SoCal preview video. The second of the two models Empire launched at CanJam SoCal last month is this. This is the Empire Ears Valkyrie. Now, Empire Ears is calling the Valkyrie a tribrid design. That is, it's a hybrid IEM with 3 different driver types per side. A dynamic subwoofer, 1 balanced armature for mids, and the Sonion EST electrostatic driver for the highs. Now, if the Wraith is more even-handed, more linear, more monitor-like, the Valkyrie is its more exciting, bolder, impactful sibling. The Valkyrie has bass tuned north of neutral, especially in the low end, with extension for days, and it's a high-quality class of bigger bass that keeps the mids clean. The Valkyrie also has a presence region that jumps, dazzling but never gaudy. Empire Ears' goal with the Valkyrie was to convey the energy of a live performance, and the end result is a rousing new IEM that I think will earn quite a fan base. Every time I went by Meza Audio's exhibit area at CanJam SoCal last month, they were swamped. Now, Meza Audio will be with us at CanJam London too, and they'll have their Penta in-ear monitor and their Empyrean full-size planar magnetic over-ear. Now, the Meza Audio Penta is a hybrid in-ear monitor with 5 drivers per side, one of those being dynamic and the other 4 are custom balanced armature drivers. The Penta's pressure equalization system design leads to a less closed-in feeling than most IEMs of this class and type, and to me, its spacious presentation somehow complements its flatter, more linear tonal balance to a T. Now, we have a Penta here at HeadFi HQ, and Brian and I have been taking turns using it as an everyday carry IEM. By now, many of you are probably familiar with the Meza Audio Empyrean with its very unique planar magnetic drivers. The Empyrean is absolutely one of my reference full-size over-ear headphones nowadays, on the warm side of neutral with bottomless bass extension and mild bass emphasis, and with a beautiful, gorgeously detailed rich midband and airy extended treble. It has such a wonderfully crafted combination of sonic traits that is so balanced. Oh, and it certainly doesn't hurt that it is also among the most meticulously crafted and most attractive looking headphones on the planet. Of course, Chord Electronics from nearby Maidstone will be at CanJam London. And Chord Electronics is a company that understands the high-end side of this community at least as well as, and perhaps better than any other company. Now, I've talked many times before about the level of engineering that goes into Chord Electronics' popular DAC amps. And in the CanJam SoCal preview video last month, we took a look at measurements of the Chord Hugo TT2, our current reference DAC amp, to get some objective insight into the Hugo TT2's versatility, its ability to drive super sensitive IEMs like the Campfire Audio Andromeda and Empire Ears Phantom with quiet authority, to its ability to effortlessly power hard-to-drive headphones like the HiFiMAN Susvara, and everything in between. Let's take a look at that data again. From the Hugo TT2's headphone output at typical headphone driving levels, I was measuring unweighted around 2.5 microvolts to 3 microvolts of noise, which is exceedingly low. Drive a little over a full volt and that level stays the same, so that's a noise ratio of around 0.2%. Increasing the drive level to 2.5 volts or around 760 milliwatts into 300 ohms, and that noise ratio drops to around 0.1%. This is supreme measured performance. This means that in low gain, I can plug in the most sensitive in-ears without issue. In high gain, I've got up to 1.15 watts into 300 ohms and 18 watts into 8 ohms for essentially driving any earphone or headphone in existence. If you haven't watched the 2019 CanJam SoCal preview video, please do, as I talk a bit more about the Hugo TT2's out-of-band measurements, all the way out to 1 megahertz or 1 million hertz. Long story short, if a DAC shows artifacts and hijinks out of band, it can result in intermodulation issues, make the DAC more sensitive to jitter, and more. The Hugo TT2's observed out-of-band performance is essentially ideal. Clean. Most DACs we've measured here are not this tidy all the way out there, as you can see in these couple of examples here, measured on the Audio Precision APX 555 audio analyzer. Of course, though, the best way to enjoy Chord's impeccable engineering is simply to listen to music from their gear. Whether it's the Chord Mojo, the Hugo 2, the Hugo TT2, or the Dave, just plug your earphones and headphones in, and I think you'll get it straight away. I love that RAAL-requisite calls their SR1A the world's first ear-field headphone monitor. It's such a clever name, I can't believe nobody came up with it sooner. But you know what? It makes perfect sense to call it that. Its earpieces are too close to your head to be called near-field monitors, and it's definitely not like typical over-ear headphones with its drivers further away, because the SR1A's ribbon drivers eliminate the need for a sealed chamber for bass, which I'll explain in a minute. So, ear-field monitors it is. I also love how RAAL-requisite on their website right out of the gate makes clear they intended their SR1A earfield monitor to be used for mixing, mastering, and home listening, as it's appropriate for all of that. They also speak of the SR1A's speaker-like sound field. They ain't kiddin'. No, it does not sound as if you're listening with loudspeakers in a room, but there are soundstage characteristics and imaging cues that are definitely not present with typical headphones. Things that take images out of the confines of your head, even if they're not presenting way out in front of you. The SR1A is perhaps singular in this respect. For you longtime headfiers, do you remember the old AKG K1000? If you'd heard a good K1000 properly driven, you'd remember it. I'd always wanted a K1000. It's a headphone that's eluded me. I've foolishly passed up opportunities to pick up a good set here and there. You know what though? I don't want a K1000 anymore. What I wanted the K1000 for was mostly for the type of imaging I described earlier. The SR1A does it better. You know what else it does better than the brilliant classic K1000? Everything. It does everything better, and it's more comfortable too. If the K1000 continued to evolve and iterate and improve, it would have eventually evolved into a higher form, something like what the SR1A is. And what the SR1A is unique, and it's among the most resolving anythings in the world of headphones or loudspeakers. At the heart of it all are the SR1A's full-range ribbon drivers, and here's an abbreviated primer. The SR1A ribbon driver's radiating element is an extremely thin, corrugated aluminum ribbon that's extraordinarily light and extremely flexible. This ribbon is mounted on its top and bottom, but otherwise free to move. It's suspended between magnets adjacent to it, each side of opposite poles. Power from the amplifier, the music signal, is applied through the ribbon, which develops a magnetic field, and this ribbon is then evenly driven over its entire surface. Because of its loose flexibility, the resonant frequency of the ribbon is low. In the case of the SR1A, its resonance is tuned to around 30 Hz. No sealed chamber needed. The ribbon, based on its resonance frequency, kind of wants to be a woofer. And the ribbon is an extremely low mass element, orders of magnitude lighter than traditional dynamic drivers. It's even lighter than planar magnetic drivers, as it does not require a conductive trace to be laid over the diaphragm, in this case the ribbon, to make it conductive. so it's fast. Really, really fast. And by its very nature, it wants to reproduce bass. When you think of what you ideally want from a driver, then the SR1A's driver sounds compelling because it is compelling. I also want to mention that RAAL-requisite designed the SR1A's drivers such that they can be very easily removed and replaced by the user. It literally takes just moments, and the cost of replacing these drivers is actually quite reasonable. Now I should mention the SR1A headphone alone presents what is essentially a short circuit to whatever is driving it, and we can imagine what most amps will do when they're being driven with their terminals shorted, and it is not good. So the SR1A comes with this amplifier interface unit that presents a more accommodating 6 ohms to the amp. So for now, you will need a loudspeaker driving amp for these. As you can see, I'm using the Chord T Toby with the Chord Hugo TT2 and M-Scaler stack to drive it, and I'll experiment with other amps as well. Anyway, I could go on and on about this. Listen, if you like a linear tonal balance, resolution and inner detail that will floor you, presented with imaging and sound staging that surpasses perhaps any other passive headphone, then you'll want to hear the RAAL-requisite SR1A earfield headphone monitor. It was one of the bells at the ball at CanJam SoCal last month because there's nothing quite like it. Last month at CanJam SoCal, 64 Audio was giving a sneak peek at a masked mystery IEM. Just a few days ago, though, 64 Audio took the mask off and revealed the new 64 Audio Forte Noir, a limited edition homage to their flagship TIA Forte. Now with the Forte Noir, 64 Audio opted to refine, not redefine. They mentioned they've retuned the dynamic driver for a warmer, richer low-frequency response. With the Noir, they're also now using premium Mundorf Supreme silver solder and an updated lower resistance cable intended to yield a smoother treble response. The standard 64 Audio TIA Forte has for years been one of my top reference IEMs and remains so. It's one of the top tier non-full range electrostatic IEMs, along with IEMs like the QDC Anole VX, Visioneers, Erlkönig, Odyssey LCDI4, and a few others. The TIA Forte has outstanding bass detail and extension, beautiful richness and resolution through the mids, and sparkly treble that brings to mind my electrostatic headphones. Thankfully, the 64 Audio Forte Noir is also all of those things. In fact, comparing the two is an exercise in careful listening and a lot of back and forth, preferably with both being driven at the same time by the same device. Doing that, you'll hear the treble is indeed a touch smoother with the Forte Noir, which I think is a change for the better, and without burnishing away the shimmer that's part of what makes the TIA Forte what it is. Just that touch of treble refinement has emboldened me to finally go with easier to use silicone ear tips with the Forte Noir. So should you go for the 64 Audio Forte Noir instead of the regular TIA Forte? Well, if the extra couple $100 doesn't kick it out of your budget, and you want minor refinements, and you like what I think is a better looking black aesthetic, then yes. Honestly though, they're close enough that you can't go wrong with either, and they'll both be at CanJam. At CanJam SoCal last month, I unfortunately did not have a chance to try their new flagship Astell&Kern A&Ultima SP2000 player, so I hope to be able to do that at CanJam London. The SP2000 is the first portable player to use AKM's new flagship AK4499 EQ DACs, which have current output architecture. The SP2000 uses 2 of them in a dual mono configuration. Now, one of Astell&Kern's new products I have spent considerable time with is the new Astell&Kern Con Cube. Now, when you first see the Con Cube, you might wonder who on earth would be willing to carry this behemoth of a player. I mean, look at it compared to the full-size SP1000. But then you use it and you'll find it's lighter than its size would suggest it would be. It actually feels nice in the hands too, and I have small hands. And it has a stable, steady presence on the desktop, which is nice. It's an absolutely lovely beast, and I actually enjoy carrying the Con Cube and using it. Inside, the Con Cube uses 2 ES9038 Pro DACs. I don't know of any other portable player that does. And it has monster output and drive, with up to 12 volts RMS from its balanced output and 6 volts from its unbalanced output. The Astell&Kern Con Cube drives my IEMs quietly and my full-size over-ears with authority. Like I said in the CanJam SoCal preview last month, the Con Cube is a strong performer in a unique form factor I didn't even know I wanted until it arrived. As I've said many times before, given differences in preferences, subjectivity, and our own unique personal responses with different headphones, there is not a singular target that represents perfectly what neutral is for everyone with headphones. There's a sort of range within which neutral-ish exists, and one of the IEMs I find to be most squarely in this range is the InEar Profile 8. The InEar Profile 8 has 8 balanced armatures per side with the 4-way crossover and 2 switches on each earpiece that allow you to independently adjust bass plus 3 decibels and treble plus 2 decibels above the Profile 8's default neutral tuning, which InEar calls their studio reference tuning. My favorite setting is bass up, treble down, and I keep it like that most of the time, but will switch to studio reference instead from time to time. It's great having these 2 very usable, versatile signatures on demand. The Profile 8 also comes in two different shell sizes. We have the standard size, and it's also available in a smaller size. I actually tried the small shell version on at CanJam Singapore, and it was more my size, so make sure to try both sizes on for yourself to see which fits you better, and also to audition the rest of InEar's IEMs because they'll have their whole lineup there. In the CanJam SoCal video last month, I talked about out-of-band DAC measurements. That is, observing with an audio analyzer what a DAC is doing well outside of the audio band. Our Audio Precision APX555 audio analyzer can measure all the way out to 1 megahertz, which is 1 million hertz. So why observe so far beyond what we can hear? Well, a DAC's misbehavior outside of the audio band can create intermodulation issues, make the DAC more sensitive to jitter, and cause and/or be indicative of other issues. So far, Benchmark's DAC3 has one of the cleanest, perhaps the cleanest, out-of-band FFT spectrum views I've yet seen out to 1 megahertz. Now here's the Benchmark DAC3, which is as close to ideal as I've seen. Now here's what I'll more typically see from other DACs. This comparison's incredible, and most importantly, the Benchmark DAC3 sounds outstanding. Precise, revealing, musical, and never imparting harshness that isn't in the recording. Now the Benchmark DAC3 will be at CanJam London. Make sure to listen to it. Last year, THX very kindly custom developed and custom built a headphone measurement amplifier for our measurement lab. It's based on the flagship version, the dual mono 888 version of their THX AAA circuit. Now the 888 version of the AAA is the quietest, lowest distortion anything I've ever measured. Now our lab amp is fixed at unity gain. But Benchmark built their own headphone amp around the AAA 888 and developed one of the most incredible volume controls for it, added some additional features, and called it the Benchmark HPA4. Essentially, the Benchmark HPA4 is the improved, user-friendly, volume-controllable version of our headphone measurement amp, and it's superlative. Superlative. Now guess what the Benchmark DAC3 will be plugged into at CanJam London. Anyway, make sure to plug your earphones and headphones into this rig and listen to what measurably transparent sounds like. At CanJam London, Jomo Audio from Singapore will be featuring their Jomo Audio Trinity. This is a three-way in-ear monitor that includes Sonion's electrostatic tweeter, the Sonion EST. In each Trinity earpiece, there's a dynamic driver for bass, quad-balanced armature drivers for mid and highs, and dual electrostatic super tweeters for highs. The electrostatic tweeters in the Jomo Trinity cover frequencies above 8 kHz. Now, in my opinion, Jomo did a beautiful job integrating the electrostatic tweeters into the Trinity, using them to impart beautiful shimmer and detail. Jomo has joined that electrostatic shimmer with the power and slam of the dynamic bass driver and the linearity of the quad-balanced armature mid-range drivers. Again, the Jomo Audio Trinity is just a beautiful sounding IEM. Now, of course, Jomo Audio will also have its other IEM models on exhibit too, so make sure not to miss any of them. Now, if I had to pick another model to listen to in addition to the Trinity, I'd go with the Jomo Audio Flamenco. At CanJam SoCal last month, there was one headphone I previously knew absolutely nothing about that was getting rave reviews at the show, and then some serious love in the CanJam SoCal Impressions thread after. It's called Headphone, and it's by HEDD. Unfortunately, I completely missed these at the show. The Headphone by HEDD is the first full-range air motion transformer headphone, and it's intended for audiophiles and recording artists. The air motion transformer, or AMT, is an electrodynamic transducer that, according to HEDD, can move air significantly faster than common voice coil, magnetostatic or planar, or electrostatic systems. It has a folded diaphragm that squeezes out the air 4 times faster, which HEDD says is a breakthrough for capturing more details. Again, I haven't had a chance to hear it, but it will be at CanJam London, so make sure to check out HEDD's exhibit. By the way, as I mentioned in the seminar segment, Dr. Frederick Knopp from HEDD is going to be giving a seminar about this headphone and the technology behind it at CanJam London, so make sure not to miss that either. Every time I think of Bravo, images of rather expensive, beefy-looking, cable-down IEMs come to mind. Some of them are eccentric too and can sound eccentric. So when Phil Wannell from Audio Concierge, Phil will be at the Bravo exhibit at CanJam London, when Phil sent us the new Bravo Cupid, I was expecting an expensive, beefy-looking, cable-down IEM. When the Bravo Cupid arrived, though, I was shocked to find a rather sleek and trim, metal-bodied, traditional Concha-type cable-up IEM. Even more surprising was listening to it. The Cupid doesn't sound eccentric at all. It actually sounds quite balanced, with bass that's impactful but not overblown, mids that flesh out vocals nicely, and a crisp, cool treble. The Bravo Cupid is a fun listen, actually. Now, I ran a quick measure, and here's the frequency response compared to the Harman IE target. No, it's not exactly Harman-ish, but again, it's a nice overall balance. Now, the Cupid's driver complement, by the way, is one 8mm planar tweeter alongside a neodymium dynamic driver. And there was one more surprise when Phil said the price of the Bravo Cupid is only £249. Anyway, give the Cupid a listen at the show and compare it to its pricier Bravo siblings. Well, as long as that was, it was still just a sampling of some of what you'll be able to hear and see at CanJam London, which again is happening July 27th and 28th, 2019 at the Park Plaza Westminster Bridge Hotel in central London. Since there was no way to show you everything that'll be at the show, scrolling on your screen now is a list of all the companies who will be exhibiting at CanJam London this year. For those of you attending, I can't wait to see you there. And for those of you who can't make it, we'll see you on the forums at headfi.org.